Hey folks, happy Thursday and welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, do we have a power-packed day. Happening earlier today, a judge says ABREGO GARCIA must be released immediately. But will that happen? Or will the government file an appeal? We've got the very latest. He's one of the coolest rappers in the game. Now he has a movie, Kosher Dills, as he talks about all things anti-Semitism. And oh my gosh, today's the day right here at Fox 5. Yes, we are celebrating all things holidays. Our Christmas party, or holiday party as they call it nowadays, takes place, and we'll take you there live right here on the Live Zone. I can tell you one person who will not have a few. That's this guy, Tucker Barnes, now joining us.
Well, let's be clear about our holiday party at night. They monitor us pretty carefully.
Right.
Cameras everywhere. I can't. That's not where I do my best work.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I mean, no drinking for me. So I'm a good guy.
Yeah. There you go.
Not.
I'm an omelet guy. Okay. How about breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah.
Cold, cold, and cold.
Okay. Let's do it.
You pick your hour. It's cold, and it will continue to be cold. 37, and maybe we can do 40 this afternoon, but that's going to be wishful thinking. At least it's a little brighter than yesterday, so we'll have more sunshine. But windy out there. Did you experience some gusty winds?
Oh my gosh! Not only windy, but to your point, cold.
Yeah, it's cold, and will remain cold around here for the next couple days. So cold, in fact, we had a couple flurries. If you look carefully there, eastern Prince George's County, we had a nice little batch earlier, and a couple flurries, and we have some more out towards Front Royal at Winchester. So a couple of flurries. Big picture, strong northwest flow, and we keep it cold today. Tomorrow, maybe a few flurries, Guy, and then if we're going to get a chance for a little light snow around here, it will be late Saturday night and early Sunday. But I'll tell you what, the chances are looking up. Each computer model run gets us a little closer to a possible light snow event around here. Late Saturday, after midnight. You know, if you're one of those people who doesn't get to the club till midnight, you want to consider. Or if you're up early Sunday morning, you want to consider. But what will be happening here, let me back it up and show you, is that we are looking at the possibility of a little light snow around here after midnight, and then probably wrapping up by midday. Okay, it doesn't want to show me. On Sunday. How much snow are we looking at? A little early to nothing worked. But 1 to 3 inches, I think, would be an early call on that. 1 to 3 inches. Not a lot, but notice how cold it is.
Yeah.
33, 32. Cold enough, what falls will stick.
Yeah. Speaking of not working, earlier we saw video of a skydiver that apparently tried to skydive. It didn't work. And then we saw this, Tucker Barnes. This is you skydiving.
Oh,
it did
yes,
work.
Glory days. I had the opportunity, Guy, years ago. Look how high up in the...
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? With the Golden Knights, which is, you know, the best of the best with the U.S. Army, to jump for our show, for Good Day. And I jumped live on the... Look how high I am. I'm like at 15,000 feet. Let me tell you, that looks like fun. It wasn't. I mentioned earlier, I cried the whole way down. I literally had tears in my eyes underneath my little mask. And look, he's having fun behind me, but I had... Look at that. Yeah, there you go. So anyways... it was a great, you know what, great experience. I'm glad I did it, and I hope to never do it again.
Oh, okay. Well, sign me up. It looks really cool.
Really?
Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, look, what you don't appreciate is that I was like looking at the curvature of the earth up there. It blew me like 4 miles off track. We got blown because of the wind into a cow pasture. It's a whole story.
Oh, there's the opening of the chute. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Look how cool and calm the guy behind me is.
The big takeaway, you said the curvature of the earth, so it's not flat.
Yeah. Let me also tell you one other thing about tandem jumping. That man is awful close to you. I'll leave it at that.
Tucker Barnes, with all things weather and skydiving here on the Live Zone. Guys, if you haven't already done so yet, make sure you download the Fox Local app and take that forecast with you on the go. All right, guys, still following breaking news this hour, where earlier today, a Maryland judge ordered ABREGO GARCIA immediately released from ICE custody. The federal judge issuing a document saying ICE has until 5 p.m. today to release him, and that they must notify her immediately following after that. Fox 5's Katie Barlow breaks down why the judge is denying the government's attempts to deport GARCIA.
Appears that there was no removal order. At least that's what the judge is finding in her decision today. There was no removal order in the first place, meaning there was no order that he had to be removed to a third country. And that creates a problem under federal law for the government because you cannot hold him in ICE detention, at least the way that I read her decision and the way that I read the law, without that final order of removal. It appears.
To discuss the latest important development, we welcome immigration attorney and founder of immigration law firm USA for All, Renata Castro, now joining us right here on the Live Zone. Renata, always good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you just heard our very own Katie Barlow touch on several of the legal aspects from it, and I'm hoping you could expand. For folks that are still trying to wrap their heads around all of this, what does the ruling mean?
Well, it's very important to the viewers to understand that when someone is in the country without status, allegedly, they still have a right to defend themselves. So when the government tried to deport ABREGO Garcia without a deportation order, that would be the equivalent of ordering somebody to death row without subjecting them to a jury of their peers. It's unconstitutional. So before anyone politicizes this decision by this federal judge, all she did was say the government is not following protocol. If you want to deport this man, fine, but you need to follow the rules and you need to afford him an opportunity for a defense. He doesn't have a removal order, so there is no reason for him to be in extended detention today. And in my legal analysis, she was right. She was impartial, she was confined to the record, and this is what we expect from courts in the United States.
And so with that being said, the next question I would have to pose is, will this prevent him from, well, actually being deported from the U.S.?
Not likely, but now at least he will have a chance to defend his case. And if he is given a removal order, which is a deportation order, which is a sentencing from an immigration judge saying he has no legal basis to remain in the United States, then and only then will the government be able to deport him. But I think that we should be expecting a lot more involvement from federal courts, as happened in the ABREGO Garcia case, in immigration cases. This particular case, a habeas corpus case, every day more common in federal courts throughout the United States, basically telling the federal government, listen, you do have the right to deport, but you don't have the right to violate due process, even in immigration courts.
Yet again, the judge's ruling stating they have until 5 p.m., if you will. And so with that being said, the next question is, what will the government do? Obviously, there's two sides to every coin. And this side, well, I'm pretty sure the government will perhaps file an emergency appeal.
It is very likely that they will, but I doubt that they'll be able to produce a final order of removal or a deportation order until 5 p.m. today. So the likely outcome is that he will be released and he doesn't pose an immediate threat to the community. There's no reason for him to be in extended detention, but it will be interesting, to say the least, to see who the immigration judge overseeing his case will be, if it will be one of the new military judges, and if we will have a fair trial for ABREGO Garcia in immigration court. I think that the ball will now be in immigration court, and it'll be a lively trial, to say the least.
And so with that being said, Renata, and we'll end with this, well, two things. One, does he not still face criminal charges right here in the U.S.? And two, with that also being said, you would think that, well, perhaps he definitely wants to stay, but the question is, yet again, the likelihood of him being able to do just that and remain right here in the U.S.
It's important to differentiate different levels of criminal charges, and everyone is innocent until they're proven guilty. So if you cross a red light, that's a criminal violation. Does that mean that individual poses an immediate threat to the community? Are they dangerous? Are they someone who we would normally classify as a criminal? Most likely not. Most civilians have committed some kind of criminal violation. So his criminal investigations or trials, until they become final, are not dispositive or a block to him pursuing an immigration benefit. If my memory doesn't fail me, ABREGO Garcia is actually married to a U.S. citizen, and he will likely be afforded the opportunity to prove his marriage to this U.S. citizen and pursue an immigration benefit. Unfortunately, in this case, everything has been just magnified because this was the poster child case for the Trump administration, saying we can do whatever we want when it comes to immigration removal. But even for those immigrants who may have criminal challenges, they have to be afforded due process in immigration court and can and should pursue immigration relief, because depending on the severity of their criminal issues, they may just be able to obtain their green cards and in the future their citizenship. So if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't been convicted, and he will have to fight those two cases in both courts, immigration court and criminal court.
Yet again, we will see that unfold right before our very eyes. The ruling, yet again, in place until 5 p.m., and that's when the order has to be completed and or satisfied. Renata Castro, always good to see you. Of course, Renata Castro is immigration attorney and founder of immigration law firm USA for All, joining us on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Andrea Kaye, radio host and political strategist back here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Andrea.
Back at you, Guy.
All right, so it's the big story. You just heard Renata and I discussing just that, and that happens to surround Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a judge ordering his release no later than 5 p.m. today. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are today is one of those days in which lawyers deserve all the jokes that are made about them, like the one about all the lawyers found at the bottom of the ocean, to try to compare Abrego Garcia to an American citizen who might do a California roll at a stop sign is absolutely disturbing to me. This is a man who multiple times was accused by that wife that she's talking about, was accused of beating her. This was a man, she's talking about how he's not a threat to the community. He's been accused credibly by his wife with pictures and all other documentations of him beating her. He was busted in a human trafficking stop. A low-level hack progressive judge had already declared that he was a gang member. The shame is on the Trump administration. Well, there's two shames here regarding this man. The shame is on the left for making him out to be a poster child for rights in this country, given his track record. It's disturbing to me, the women that have done rallies on his behalf. And shame on the Trump administration for bringing him back and extraditing him. And I called out Pam Bondi and the Trump administration at the time and said, shame on you guys. Oh, now he's going to face justice. Oh, no. Now he's walking around free in this country to harm other Americans. And also, let me just point out, I'm not an attorney, but I do know that somebody coming into this country illegally makes them a criminal just on that face.
Well, that leads us to this, and that is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who heads the agency central to President Trump's mass deportation agenda, well, facing fierce questioning from Democrats who are a part of the House Committee on Homeland Security. Now, Noem's department is under particular scrutiny because Congress in July passed legislation giving it roughly $1.65 billion to carry out its mass deportation agenda and secure the border. This is a big deal on Capitol Hill right now, Andrea.
Well, it's a big deal for all Americans because one of the Trump's platforms, pretty much at the top of the list for why not just Republicans, but Democrats and independents joined with him and voted for him and put him in office, was for these mass deportations. And mass deportations meant, according to polls at the time, over 60% said they wanted every one of them out of here, out of this country, because it is not just there's no ability to vet, and there's been no vetting done. We don't know how many of them roaming amongst us are the Abrego Garcias that are beating and human trafficking, child sex trafficking. We don't know how many amongst us are here to drop fentanyl and kill Americans en masse. We don't know how many are here are going to rape and murder a Jocelyn Nungare and dump her body under an overpass. We do know that they're all here as a drain on us economically, taking up all kinds of services from healthcare and our schools and beyond. The American people want mass deportations, and to see the Democrat Party defend the Abrego Garcias, that is who their constituency is. This was all a play to mass import all of these illegal aliens, 25, 30 million, we don't even know how many are here, so that they'll vote Democrat. It's just, I'm glad that it's on display. In fact, Kristi Noem had a great response to Tanadar today, who called for her resignation. She said, "Your calling for my resignation is such an endorsement of my work. Thank you."
Wow. All right. We'll have to continue to monitor that throughout the afternoon. We'll end with this, and that is the Senate will vote today on two proposals designed to help Americans pay for health care. The Affordable Care Act subsidies are set to expire at the end of the year, leading to a spike in premiums for about 22 million Americans. Now, a Democratic proposal would extend the ACA subsidies for 3 years. Neither is expected to pass. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, here we are again, Guy, in the 11th hour with these subsidies expiring, and neither party has done anything to solve the crisis that is the Unaffordable Care Act. It was always a dog from the beginning. If it has to be viable with subsidies, that proves that it was a dog. The issue with our healthcare system, this was never about access to care. It was never about anything being affordable, and just kicking the can down the road, whatever form of subsidies, is not the solution. Getting the government out of our healthcare system, opening it up for competition and price, transparency for the consumer, allowing us to buy insurance and crafting plans that meet our individual, personal, and family needs is the solution here. And neither party wants to be looking at solutions. And then on top of it, you add in the fact that these marketplaces around the country, we've learned that upwards of 90% of the people on these platforms, these marketplaces, involve fraud. It's just, this has been an issue that both parties have ignored.
We'll have to leave it there. Yet again, Ms. Andrea Kaye, Radio Go host and political strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. It's always good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Guy. Appreciate you.
Well, show me the money. Apparently, that's what every American would like to see. However, residents living in the state of Massachusetts are losing money. Hence, about 1 in 3 voters are weighing leaving the state. That according to a newly released study. My next guest says the Democratic Party dominance of the state of Massachusetts, happens to be responsible for all of this. I'm referring to current U.S. Senate candidate and former federal prosecutor, former U.S. Marine, and 2024 GOP Massachusetts U.S. Senate nominee, Mr. John Deaton, now joining us on the Live Zone. Mr. Deaton, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
But of course, and I got to tell you, that 1 in 3 number, somewhat staggering to think that many residents within your state, the state of Massachusetts, now saying, you know what, I think I need to go elsewhere. Yet again, that has to be concerning.
Listen, when 1/3 of the people in your state are thinking about leaving, that's not a statistic. That's an emergency. And it proves that Beacon Hill and those in Washington have failed working class families. And it needs to be dealt with as the crisis it is. Because if you lose residents of the future, you lose the future.
One of the interesting points about the study, it happened to find that the biggest financial strains were really for folks dealing with utility bills, followed by healthcare costs, housing, and groceries. Yet again, something that, most Americans say, you know what, me too, I'm dealing with that.
100%. Listen, decades of one-party rule. The Democrats here have a supermajority. Listen, I got over 41%, or about 41% of the vote last time as a first-time candidate, yet there's not one single representative in Washington. All 9 members of the House, Democrats, both U.S. senators, Democrats, every statewide office, Democrats. And it is proving they believe that Massachusetts can solve climate change by itself when our yearly carbon emissions are less than 2 days of China's carbon emissions, but they're forcing these alternative energy mandates that are crushing working families, and they're seeing it. We pay nearly double the electricity price of the national average and over 75% higher natural gas prices than the national average. Something's got to be done.
All right, Mr. Deaton, I got to play devil's advocate here, and we know that health costs could, really skyrocket, if you will. More than 300,000 in the state of Massachusetts could see some, we'll see some of their health benefits completely go away. And with that being said, I'm curious, your take, how does one fix that?
Well, listen, the Affordable Care Act was never affordable because what it allowed is for 3 vertically integrated insurance companies to control over 90% of the provider networks and over 80% of every prescription drug in America. You know, you and I can go and look for a microwave or refrigerator, compare prices and brands all day long, all across the country, but you can't do it for life-saving drugs. We have to reform the system. And people aren't looking for slogans or ideology, they're looking for solutions, and I'm going to offer some in this campaign.
And we'll end it with that. With that being said, yet again, you are seeking the Senate seat in the state of Massachusetts. Why should one cast their vote for you, sir?
Well, first of all, my opponent is Ed Markey. He's been in Washington since 1976. He's had 50 years of chances, and he's failed miserably. I'm a common sense person who will always put people before party. What we have in Massachusetts is elected officials who put party ahead of people. We need to return to common sense, a common sense energy policy that incorporates solar, that incorporates nuclear, which is 97% efficient, and it is carbon net zero neutral as far as carbon emissions. And so we just need to return to common sense, not ideologues.
We'll have to leave it there. Yet again, Mr. John Deaton joining us right here on the Live Zone. I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, a local lawmaker crying foul, and it all stems over the potential removal of protesters at Union Station. D.C. Representative Oye Owelewa joins us next, live on the LZ. We'll be right back. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, anti-Trump protesters camped outside Union Station say they are refusing to leave despite a notice from the National Park Service ordering them to clear the area for an upcoming cleanup project in Columbus Circle. Two groups for liberation and resistance everywhere and Remember Your Oath, a veteran-led organization, have held permits to demonstrate in the space for several months. Protesters argue their permits remain valid and say it's unfair for officials to force them out before those permits expire. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is D.C. Representative Oye Owelewa back here on the Live Zone. Sir, always good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Good to see you as well.
All right, so let's jump right into this. The U.S. Park Police told demonstrators the area is closed daily as of 4 p.m., advised them they would need to vacate the site from a construction activity capacity. I'm curious your take on that.
Yeah, it's a really cold, windy day here in D.C., but protesters are red hot. I mean, I was there earlier today, and we're seeing, the demarcation of just literally the area of where these protesters were. So you have folks like Blair, D.C., who've been speaking truth to power, and now they think that MPS is taking actions against them because of that and encouraging on their First Amendment rights. And I believe that it's happening right now. We have to stand up against it.
Well, we also know that the Department of Interior, which oversees NPS, provided a statement Tuesday, yet again, saying the closure is required to keep people away from the hazards associated with the construction zone. I guess my question to you is that a cop-out?
I don't know. I mean, they only closed off the area that these people will literally have permits of. not in the entire Columbus Circle. So it's a little bit surprising to me. And when you're factoring some of these protesters have been arrested, have had their stuff moved, evicted without any warning, this kind of looks like it's one of those types of actions against anti-Trump rhetoric.
So you made mention of protesters being arrested, at least to my understanding, as of Tuesday. And so perhaps this occurred on yesterday or Wednesday, but no arrests had been made. But you're stating that, yes, folks have been arrested thus far.
Not recently, but these are folks that have been here since the beginning of 2025. So when people are being talked about badly by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, or they're being made fun of by Donald Trump on social media and now being displaced by MPS, you kind of have those levels of distrust. And I feel like that's what's happening right now.
All right, let's move on. You recently thanked Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton for her team for bringing attention to this matter. Not only that, but D.C. elected officials, as you state, must be on the front lines protecting speech as there's been so much federal oppression. That's what you stated, sir. And we'd also like to say, from ripping up Black Lives Matter Plaza and seeing our local budget frozen. But with that being said, now there's word that the plaza, Black Lives Matter Plaza, could be named after Charlie Kirk. Your response to that?
It's just another example of what happens when DC's not a state. We have folks that we don't elect, folks that don't champion DC values, trying to push over things onto us. No one in DC wants this to become Charlie Kirk Plaza, and I understand that people are passionate about him one way or the other, but this isn't the way to do it. When it comes to the protesters, they deserve to have their First Amendment rights, and we also need to have Congress members out of DC business. We believe in hands-off DC, free DC, and this is just another example of people put politics over the wishes of the people living in the nation's capital.
All right, sir, we'll end with this, and that is we all know that you are currently running for the D.C. Council seat at large. We also know that Mayor Bowser now stepping down and the police chief also stepping down as well. It's a very interesting time with regard to politics right here in Washington, D.C. What do you envision? What needs to happen in order for the city to remain, let's say, to be vibrant, to continue to thrive?
Well, we need new blood into this fight. We need new ideas and vision into this fight. We need to bring international development NGO careers to DC to rehire State Department workers, U.S. aid workers. We need to fix our Medicaid system. We need folks who have our values, our expertise. There's never been a time that a pharmacist has been on the DC Council, and I think there's a lot of change coming, hopefully for the better in 2026.
Yet again, we have been speaking with DC Representative Oye Owelewa, joining us right here on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take another break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, have you seen it? I'm talking about the rapper turned movie producer turned director turned storyteller. His name, Kosha Dills, has a brand new film. You'll hear about it and see some of it next, right here on the Live Zone.
We are joined by the one and only Kosha Dills. If you've been around the Garden, especially during this past Rangers playoff run, you're very familiar with this man's voice, this man's face, unmistakable energy. Kosha, welcome to MSGPM.
Welcome. You know, in artistry, it's like I want people to like me just for my music because I'm an artist, but now people only like me because I'm a proud Jew. I didn't sign up to be a proud Jew. It's just who I've been built to be.
Been looking in closer detail at the shop.
That's the film, Bring the Family Home. And I got to tell you, he brought it home in a major way. I'm talking about the one, the only rapper, filmmaker, producer, director, the whole nine. He is all things entertainment. Kosha Dills joins us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, my friend. Congratulations and welcome to the show.
How's it going?
I am doing amazing, but I would argue you are doing a lot better than me. I got to tell you, and so full disclosure here, I have not seen the film in its entirety, but what I did watch, I thought to myself, wow, why doesn't everyone do something like this with regard to telling a different story with a different angle, but making it, well, something that everyone wants to see with it being entertaining as well?
Yeah, I think we are out the era of showing everyone what happened post October 7th. And I think we need to use alternative ways of approaching really hard topics. So if you incorporate your personal story, you make it a little bit out yourself, it's a little bit sarcastic, it's a little bit narcissistic, it's a little bit controversial, but it's entertaining. I think we're gonna get a lot of new eyeballs on these stories that no one's willing to watch because we look at our phones so much and we're like, you know what, I can't look at this. We're doom scrolling so much today that people decide to either opt in or opt out. And I've even opted out and I said, you know, what would make someone like yourself or maybe one of your family members and saying like, that's not really what I'm into, but you know what, this guy is interesting, let me watch the film.
Yeah, but not only is the film amazing, so are you as an individual. And what do I mean by that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you started out as a rapper. I mean, you were dropping bars, my man.
That's the bread and butter. I mean, I'm a rapper on Wild 'N Out, street performer. I've toured around the world. I've actually played every single state in America. Not many rappers could say all 50 states. I've done Alaska, Hawaii. And, you know, everything has been independent. And I was making short form content for so long and I got so sick and tired of it. I said, let me use this opportunity of Jewish artists became really a lot more popular doing interviews on the streets. And this song, Bring the Family Home, was something I wrote on October 7th. And I said, like, let me use this as an opportunity to make a full length. I've always wanted to do film. I've been going to Sundance since like 2009, opening up for like Wiz Khalifa or Travis Scott or playing jam band shows with John Popper or Andy Frasco. And I thought, you know what, like, here's an opportunity, man, make a film. So I've spent 18 months making this film and just launched a really successful Kickstarter. We've raised almost 100,000, a little bit over 80,000, and all independent from my own supporters and fans, no organizations, really for the people, by the people. And that's how I think it's the new way to connect with people. When people know that you do it independently, just like a lot of rappers nowadays, they're bigger than any label or let's say a film production house, you know, or a record label. We want to see independent people making independent things.
Yeah, you made mention of connecting with people and you do it oh so well. Within the film, there was a portion where you were speaking to a Palestinian woman, and I found it just to be so interesting because you got a chance to tell your story. And what do I mean by that? And not only tell your story, but for her to perhaps understand your plight. And so I believe she was holding up a sign and it stated genocide. Israel is creating genocide. And you said to her, well, hey, if you have children and they're being held hostage, well, what would you do in order to get them back? And she said, well, I would do any and everything. And you said any and everything? And she said, yeah. And it made me step back as well and think, dear God, yeah, if that happened to be someone within my family, not saying that we're condoning genocide in any way, form, or fashion, but to say that, hey, you're going to do whatever you can in order to get your loved ones back. I thought it was a unique approach to telling your story.
You know, I think if we approach that woman wasn't Palestinian. She was a little French, cute, very adorable looking woman outside Columbia University early on. And this was like at the beginning where these man on the street interviews sort of took over social media. I mean, so you think 5 years ago, this wasn't even a format that people were using, this interview talk. You guys have been doing it originally, the original man on the street on news stations, right? Interviewing one other person like you just did. And in this situation, she took a step back And she's like, well, you have a point. And that's all we're really trying to do is saying, hey, you know, there's two sides to every story, right? And as much as we don't like to see civilians, no one in the world wants civilians to get hurt. I don't think deep down in our hearts, even if they say it online, they're probably going through something really difficult where they resort to saying crazy stuff online. In that situation, this woman took a step back and said, I would do everything in my might to get my grandchildren back. So I said, well, all right, what if they had two? And then you, maybe one, not all, you're 5 and 3. And she have a point, and that's when the song Bring the Family Home comes in, because it's like, what I want to ask people, what would you do for your family, you know? And what would you do if you didn't know that person lives right next door to you? Because there are people, there's only one hostage left right now, but now that all the hostages are home, which is the end of the film, what are we going to do now? Because we're still in this mental state of, oh my God, I can't believe we are still here. It's not getting better, even though everything has, you know, stopped. The war has stopped, but has it stopped? Because it's also within us, and we have this new addiction to this mentality of social media that creates this friction with people, and yeah, it's a difficult approach, but I want people to take a step back and say, has a point.
Yeah, it was done so well. I just really wanted to commend you for how that was done. It was a different approach and something that I think a lot of folks could really appreciate. I'm curious, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that you believe is that every artist has a responsibility to really humanize everyone. Is that correct?
I think that artists are the only thing that could bring people together based on talent. Now, I truly believe that success in pop culture could gain a lot of respect between communities, meaning that if you're a great filmmaker, you're going to bring together people. If you're a great rapper, you're going to bring people that like hip hop together and listen to you because of that. If you have pop culture success, if you've been in these magazines and people say, man, I've always wanted that. I don't agree with you, but I'll listen to you because you're successful in your craft. That is an opportunity to really bring people together. And for me, you know, my family is Israeli. I've always felt like that. I've been sort of in the Israel Jewish space since, you know, the early 2000s. And I really think for me, it's something I always wanted to do. And I noticed how separated we were earlier on. And as social media got, you know, more part of our daily lives, the gap widened. It didn't get us closer. But we do have the opportunity to bring people closer, you know, so that's what I try to do in my music. I think even through my Kickstarter, the film has support from the Black community, from Palestinians, from Israelis, and not many Jewish films have that right now. And that's what I'm trying to do. You know, I just want to like get new eyeballs on this idea that, you know, the chill approach is a good way to do it. Yeah. And it works, as you see.
Yeah, well, not only is it chill, it's real, and I would encourage folks to check it out. We'll end with this, and that is, after witnessing everything that you have thus far, what really gives you hope? What do you see on the horizon overall?
Well, you know, there's certain times that people love the Jews and love, you know, people of all different cultures, and that's the holidays. So it's Hanukkah, right? Hanukkah's coming up. I got a show in Loudoun, Virginia. I'm doing a Hanukkah lighting out there. It's open to the whole community. I'm doing a show in Baltimore at Third Space, selling hundreds of tickets, open to the whole community. You don't have to be Jewish. And even though these stories, you know, are of these holiday stories, you know, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, you know, Ramadan, any of these holidays, it's sort of, you know, the American West, and it's sort of like broadened it open to everyone to being like, hey, happy holidays. And I do think that's like a nice lead-in. I really hope, so, you know, like I said, this week I'm just performing my music, but ultimately this next coming year, it's going to be all the film. It'll be challenging, but I'm going to be the guy that entertains people. And I think people always need to laugh. People always need to think, and not everything has to be gruesome and gory and revisiting the horrors from 2 years ago and up till now. But we need just something a little bit adjacent to it to make it easier for people that just don't really want to be so involved, and they're just curious to learn and they don't want to be penalized for it. So I want to be responsible to create that kind of content and a film that's a little bit easier for the general public to watch.
Yet again, he's an internationally recognized Jewish rapper, writer, and storyteller, unlike any other. Talking about my man right here. Yes, Kosher Deals. Make sure you check out the film, Bring the Family Home. And we truly appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, time for our Thursday Talkers. And, oh my gosh, look who walked into the building. Hey. You know him well, meeting a personality, Hassan J. Thomas, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too, guys.
I love the outfit, my man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm trying to keep up with him, y'all.
If only we had a camera for the shoes. I got to work on that. Next time, we'll make that happen as well. Hey, we're talking about some of the stories that folks are talking about at home. And I think you're really going to like this. I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
So, by a show of hands, how many folks have gotten into an argument? Come on, Hassan, raise your hand. You've never gotten into an argument with someone?
I have.
Okay, perhaps you have. Well, according to a newly released study, when it comes to arguing, more and more people nowadays are doing so via text. However, that study found that arguments via text tend to be 3 times longer and 4 times messier.
Okay, yes, I agree.
Overall, text arguments take about 8 hours to resolve compared to face-to-face, which takes about 2 hours. So what say you, Hassan, about that?
Well, I have been definitely in some debacles, some text message debacles with people, family members, friends, whatever. And it takes so long because of the punctuations, the dots, the waiting to respond.
Yeah.
I take the read part off so you can see if I read it or not, depending on how I want to come at you and when. And the timing, okay, are you responding 2 minutes or are you responding 10 minutes? So yeah, I agree.
It seems like you're an expert at this.
Well, listen, I've been in some stuff, okay?
It's so funny. I'm thinking about some of the arguments I had via text, and I have used some words that, first of all, my mom would wash my mouth out with soap with, and second of all, I would never say, it would never come out of my mouth.
Okay.
And so to think about that, and it's so true, I will argue to the end of time.
Right, but in person, I'll be like, okay, you got it. But in messages, like, and it's not that I'm a punk or anything, it's just, listen, I ain't got time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give him something to eat, something to drink.
Oh, gosh. And especially during this time of the year, yeah, we're supposed to be nice. I want to be on Santa's nice list, not the naughty list.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, we have producer Joey with our second talker.
Hey guys, it's me, producer Joey. All right, if you know someone who likes scented candles, watch out because you're going to be introduced to some new smells from Bath & Body Works. This looks like it's a pickle. We got chips and salsa. We got pizza and ranch, popcorn and slushy, and coffee and donuts. I think this is a bit much. I don't want my house to smell like many of these things. What do you guys think?
Hassan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of food scented candles. I'm more of like a white gardenia, sage, or something like that. But not food. I mean, because I can cook with that. I don't want that to smell every day. That's probably going to be mind-boggling and give me a headache in the morning. But yeah, what about you?
So I'll tell you what. First of all, the last one, coffee and donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm a coffee and donut guy. I mean, you got the coffee smell, which you would smell within my home.
Okay, what's your donut? What's your favorite donut flavor?
The glazed with the chocolate icing on top.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would smell okay. Now, here's the second one. You know what really caught my attention? The popcorn in slushy. Yeah. I think that, but the only problem is that I've noticed from time to time when I take off my shoes, guess what it smells like?
Popcorn. cheese popcorn.
So I don't know if that's a good way to go.
I don't know about that. I'm probably going to need to burn another candle that smells a little bit more floral to, permeate that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. The things that they come up with, and here's the thing, the things that we'll probably buy in order to give to someone just to get a laugh out of it.
I love it, though. It's great. It's a great marketing strategy, yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
He says no for him. I say maybe.
No.
Joey, you say?
No.
All right. Hassan J. Thomas, before we let you go, what are you working on?
Yes, I got so many projects coming up, Guy. I have a holiday party. It's called the HJT Presents. That's
nice.
Hassan J. Thomas, get it. HJT presents a White Hot Holiday Friendsmas, and it's going to be at Air Lounge up at Adams Morgan here in Washington, D.C. on December 21st at 5.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's what I'm working on. Just for the end of the year, right, with people of holiday cheer and networking and having a great time.
Well, it's always cheerful and joyful when you make your way into the studio, specifically right here on the Live Zone. Hassan J. Thomas joining us right here on the LZ. We'll chat soon. All right, folks. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. So today is a big day right here at Fox 5. Why? Because we are celebrating all things holidays. Yes, our official holiday party is taking place today. But here's the thing. Of course, when you do news, you got the morning shift, you got the afternoon shift, and you have the evening shift. Well, right this very moment, I can tell you the afternoon shift holiday party is taking place. But we must pose the question, what should you and should you not do at the holiday party? Hence, we bring in producer Joey.
I really didn't know, so I had to ask people. I had to go around and ask people what to do at the party. So here's what we got, guys.
You should definitely come to the holiday party with good energy, high spirits. It's about having fun, so yeah, be joyous and be merry.
One thing you shouldn't do.
Don't talk about work. Don't get drunk and try to put advances onto your boss's wife. I've seen it happen at the holiday party. Someone got drunk and was trying to holler at their boss's wife. Didn't end well at all.
Don't do that.
Didn't end well at all. Don't do that.
All right, Kendra, what's one thing you should do at an office holiday party?
One thing you should do, be kind and talk to everybody. Maybe introduce yourself to some of your coworkers you don't know yet.
I would say enjoy a cocktail or two, but do not get drunk because you just don't want to not be yourself around your colleagues and your bosses. That can affect your reputation. But do enjoy the sweets, right? I mean, like there are sometimes treats that you don't often get access to except for the holiday party. And if you don't go to a lot of holiday parties, enjoy the one at work.
Yeah. And speaking of which, here's our sweet bowl over here. We do get sweets at work. Yeah, there we go. See, we get fed. But today we get really fed, and now you know what to do's and what to don'ts.
I absolutely love it. The best part is do not get drunk and holler at the boss's wife.
Do not holler at the boss's wife. Whatever you do, not do that.
All right, so let's find out if that's taking place right now. I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Fox 5 Weekend Live host Saida Abbas, joining us yet again, live from our holiday party that's currently taking place, I guess about, what, 10 floors above us? Hi, Saida.
Hi, guys. You have no idea how much food there is up here. OMG. Macaroni and cheese. I mean, you're disturbing my eating appointment right now. Just kidding. But everybody's here. Happy holidays. We're getting together. It's so nice to see all the faces in these rooms. There's a pool here as well. And then right now, we're not popping bottles, mocktails on this night. And let's show you some more of the food. So there's fried rice. Oh my God, beef and broccoli salmon.
I don't think it's Chef Dance. Today we have smoked Buddha mac and cheese. We have veggie fried rice as well. We have a little bit of our beef and broccoli here as well. We have our mashed potatoes, very nice mashed potatoes, rotisserie chicken. Over here on this side, we have our sweet chili wings, and we have our black and salmon bife. Of course, you can't miss out on our beef sliders, which have garlic sauce on top, just to give it a little more flavor and whatnot. And of course, fish off outside.
For you, let's up here, Guy and Jody. You guys have to come here after the show's done. The food is good. So, where's the catering from today?
The catering is based out of Maryland. We are with FMK.
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 So, why did you guys pick these selections?
So it just gave us a little bit of touch of our variety of changing the menus. We wanted to base off of our veggies to have our sides, our mashed potatoes as well. We want to throw a little seafood in there, a little poultry as well. So it's some variety of our menus. So it's a little tasty.
You know what? I had 3 plates. I'm super going to some iced tea. We have coffee. You know, we're going to have drinks later on at 6:30. That's going to be another party. But this is great. We're up in the penthouse. Hopefully you guys can hear us and the connection isn't good. Take a look. We're just living it up. This is how Fox 5 meetings. Just holiday parties. It's my first one. I've been here so many times. But that's how everybody makes you feel at Fox 5. And you can see the beautiful Christmas tree on the penthouse here. Jim is up here getting his plate. And we also have the photo booth I mentioned for Jennifer Delgado is taking turns. Then we have dessert. So I'm here if we can. Back to you.
Yeah, I can tell it's somewhat of a party because at the end of it, I think perhaps maybe she. Oh, there you go. I was going to say perhaps you grabbed a drink, but I just remembered that there's no alcohol at this one. Great work, Saida. And of course, if you know, sharing is caring. So producer Joey and I, go ahead and hold that up there, Joey.
Hey, what's up? I'll have a mac and cheese, and let me get some of those Brussels sprouts, fistfuls of candy, and a black coffee. I think that's all I want off of here. All right, yeah, see you soon.
How cool is that? Yet again, celebrating our holiday party. Not one, not two, but 3 holiday parties all in one day. Of course, the good stuff, the alcohol, if you will, is served this evening. Hey, watch this. Hey, real quick. Jeff, did you go to the holiday party? I did. We're streaming live from there right now. All right, guys. Let me go so I can grab a plate, and then we'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Fox 5. All right, folks, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 1 o'clock. Yes, 1 o'clock Eastern Time right here in Washington, D.C. Some of the top stories we're following this hour. A federal judge has ordered immigration officials to immediately release Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man mistakenly deported to El Salvador, who is now back in the U.S. facing criminal charges. Abrego Garcia remains protected from being deported again to El Salvador, even as ICE continues to attempt to deport him. Earlier today, our legal expert, Katie Barlow, had this to say.
Appears that there was no removal order. At least that's what the judge is finding in her decision today. There was no removal order in the first place, meaning there was no order that he had to be removed to a third country. And that creates a problem under federal law for the government because you cannot hold him in ICE detention, at least the way that I read her decision and the way that I read the law, without that final order of removal.
Joining us now to elaborate on this topic and so much more is Mr. Eric Faddis, attorney extraordinaire, back here on the Live Zone. Eric, always good to see you, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
See you, Guy.
All right, so let's jump into this. There is a lot for us to wrap our head around. And for folks that are really trying to understand this, what does this ruling in essence mean?
You know, so many twists and turns in this ongoing saga of Abrego Garcia. And, you know, I think one big takeaway is that the law takes a while. It's not something that can be effectuated, you know, super quickly. I think that's what the government wants. They want to deport this guy as soon as possible. But there is a pending habeas corpus petition as well that I think the judge referenced in terms of saying, hey, this needs to be resolved before we can decide whether he's going to be removed. And so kind of the federal government jumped the gun on this, according to the court.
And so with that being said, why did the judge in essence really rule in this fashion?
Yeah, I think, you know, the judge wants to ensure that all of the legal proceedings play out and we have finality in terms of the legal status of the case before any severe action like deportation is undertaken. You know, we saw already that he was, according to judges, improperly removed. The judge doesn't want that to happen again. They don't want a second deportation and have to bring him back from that.
He's been the poster child, if you will, for all things surrounding immigration and or the removal. So I got to ask, there are so many other folks watching right now saying, hey, perhaps I know of someone that's dealing with a similar situation. Perhaps it happens to be me. With that being said, will this change anything surrounding all things immigration?
You know, I think one message it could be conveying is that these judges are not inclined to just sort of rubber stamp whatever the federal court and immigration authorities want to do. They're going to let the legal process play out. They're going to ensure that respondents in Mr. Garcia's position are able to litigate their rights and have their day in court before just being kicked out of the country.
All right, we'll end with regard to, for this topic, with this, and that is, what's the next step for the government? What will we see happen, which, by the way, I believe the judge said that this has to be enacted, if you will, by 5 p.m. today.
You know, I think the federal government is going to seek a subsequent removal order. That is really what they need in order to effectuate the deportation. In addition to that, I think there's probably going to have to be some kind of conclusion of the habeas corpus petition, which is essentially Garcia arguing that he is being wrongfully detained against his constitutional rights. So there are a number of things that have to take place before he is going to be removed from this country, if he is.
All right, we'll have to keep a close eye on that. Yet again, one of the top stories we're following for you right here on Fox 5. Speaking of top stories, we also know that Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk, is set to make his first in-person court appearance today. Now, Kirk was shot and killed in the middle of his outdoor event at Utah Valley University back on September 10th. The 31-year-old was the founder of the conservative youth activist organization Turning Point USA. And so, Eric, with that being said, what will we see play out within that courtroom today for Mr. Robinson?
You know, Guy, I don't think it's going to be particularly substantive. Usually these are kind of akin to status conferences. But one thing that is pressing, I believe, is that defense wants to limit sort of the media accessibility to the case. Now, there are media organizations that have chimed in and have submitted to the court that, hey, we want expanded access. So perhaps that issue will be addressed today in terms of what access can the media have? How can it be published to the community and to the country?
And the likelihood of him just saying, you know what, I plead guilty. Would that be an approach, if you happen to serve as his lawyer, that you would recommend him do?
Death penalty's on the case, so
Wow.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Or at least it's on the table. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. However, it would make sense to engage in plea negotiations to see if he could perhaps enter into a plea agreement whereby he pleads guilty but avoids the death penalty. That's a common thing in death penalty litigation. I wouldn't be surprised if his attorneys are at least considering that possibility, assuming that there is sufficient evidence against him.
Yet again, Tyler Robinson set to appear in court for the first in-person appearance sometime today. We'll end with this, and that is the other big case. In this case, it happens to be taking place in the state of Massachusetts. I'm making reference to Mr. Brian Walsh. He's the man who was accused of murdering his wife and then dismembering her body. This is day 9, and I'm curious, have you been keeping a close eye on this trial? And if so, anything stand out to you thus far?
Yeah, I've been covering it for several outlets, and it was pretty unusual when we saw, really on the eve of trial, Brian Walsh plead guilty to dismembering the body and also to obstructing the investigation, being deceptive with police when he was interviewed. Those are 2 strikes against him. I think they were going to try to use it in some strategic fashion at trial, but I'm not sure it's paid him any benefits as we head into sort of the closing argument phase.
Yeah, yet again, it's been somewhat riveting. We have been carrying certain portions regarding the testimony within that trial. The man accused of murdering and dismembering his wife, Anna Walsh, who served as a realtor right here in the nation's capital. Yet again, we've been speaking with Eric Faddis, attorney extraordinaire, joining us on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time, Eric.
My pleasure, Guy.
All right, guys, still a busy day left. I can tell you any minute now we are awaiting White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to approach that podium right there. Yeah, we're getting a White House press briefing set to get underway any minute. And when that happens, we'll take you there live on the Live Zone. In the meantime, there was a congressional hearing on the National Guard deployment right here in the nation's capital. Let's take a look in.
Heroes served with honor and showed up to do the mission despite the risks, as our service members always do. It is a tragedy that never should have happened in the first place. That is exactly why I led my colleagues to push for this hearing. Military service involves risks, and our service members accept those risks knowingly, selflessly. So we better be damn sure that the mission is the right one. That it is a clear and effective mission, that it serves our national security. If we stand by while this administration pursues another irresponsible, open-ended campaign with no defined mission, no clear authorities, no set timeline, and no transparent end state, we fail our troops. We fail their families, and we fail the American people. Today, we must shine a light on the cost of these domestic deployments to the American people and to those who wear the uniform of this great nation. I look forward to getting answers about where this administration's crusade of misusing the military in American cities is going, and hearing how anyone can justify the damage it is doing to our service members.
Yet again, you have been listening and or watching the hearing that took place earlier, the congressional hearing on the National Guard deployment right here in the nation's capital. Let's take you now back to Capitol Hill, where Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer addressing all things surrounding health care and or the lack thereof. Let's take a live look in.
Actually, our proposal got more votes than theirs. Our vote actually had a majority. Theirs did not. Or theirs... No, our vote had a majority and was bipartisan, and theirs was not. After today's vote, the American healthcare crisis is now 100% on Republican shoulders. On January 1st, premiums are going to go up. All of us have had people crying in front of us, in our arms, saying, what are they going to do when they've cut off the money that pays for my daughter's cancer treatment? What am I going to do? They've told me that my dad or mom is going to be kicked out of their nursing home, which is going to close. What am I going to do when I have to change doctors who I've worked with for years on curing a disease that my spouse has? Well, coverage got a lot harder to afford, and families are facing a lot of impossible, horrible choices. And Republicans owned every bit of it because of the way they voted today. Shameful. Shame on them. They all seem to, so many of them seem to be in a bubble. You know, we know Trump's in a bubble when he calls affordability a hoax. And he says he doesn't want to do anything to help people with health care. They're in a bubble too. The suffering of people is going to be enormous and heart-wrenching. How can Republicans look themselves in the mirror knowing they have to go back home and tell people over the holidays, I voted to send your premiums up, Republicans are going to say. They're going to say they voted. Are they going to tell their constituents they voted to double their monthly premiums? Are they going to tell their constituents they voted to kick you off insurance? Are they going to tell their constituents, I voted to get you sick and go broke? Because that's what Republicans did by blocking a clean extension of the tax credits. When families open their health insurance bills in January and see the sky-high premiums staring back at them, they will know. The American people will know that Democrats fought to stop these hikes, but Republicans fought to guarantee that they happen. Republicans blocked the solution. They blocked the backup solution. They blocked any negotiations, no matter how hard we tried. And now the next chapter begins. Republicans will have to answer to the American people, explain to the country why they chose higher health care costs over real solutions. Republicans must answer for why people will lose coverage. Republicans must answer why families see premiums double and triple over the next year. Democrats' focus does not change. We fought like hell to stop these hikes, and we're going to continue to fight like hell to bring costs down for the American people on health care, on housing, on electric rates, on groceries. But Republicans are fighting like hell to send those costs right through the roof. They're fighting like hell to kick people off insurance. They're fighting like hell to cut taxes and give sweet giveaways to billionaires and the ultra-rich. January 1st is coming. Republicans are responsible for what happens next. This is their crisis now, and they're going to have to answer for it. Senator Klobuchar.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Schumer. And this is it. 13 times, not their lucky number. 13 times they rejected this. 13 times with the American people. So when that soybean farmer in Minnesota says to me he sees nothing but a perfect storm of ugly because of the tariffs, because of the input costs for his farm equipment, and because of his health care premiums, I'm going to tell them 13 times we tried to do this. You have already seen how the public feels about this, whether it is the Virginia and the New Jersey governor's races, whether it is the statewide Georgia races, including a recent legislative race there. They said enough. They want us to be working together to do something about their health care. And we have given them the opportunity so many times through straight extension. And we would like to do a lot more, believe me, reverse the cuts from the big, beautiful betrayal of the bill when it comes to Medicaid, do something more on my legislation for negotiation of prescription drugs so we could do that faster, public option, you name it. There's a lot of choices here. But right now, we have an immediate crisis. And as Senator Schumer pointed out, this is not a January thing. It's going to be set by then. This is not a February thing. This is a now thing. And they not only rejected this 3 years, despite 4 of them, including a very conservative Republican voting with us today, they also rejected a 2-year. They also rejected a very clear vote on a simple 1-year extension that basically would have been the same amount of money as they sent to Argentina. So I don't know how they explain to that soybean farmer in Minnesota that it was more important for them to send money to Argentina for one of the president's buddies than it is to help people with their health care. 75% of the people on these plans are in red states. They're in states that Donald Trump won. So I am not surprised that 4 of our colleagues voted with us. What I'm surprised by is that we didn't get that extra 9 that we needed, who behind closed doors, or as you've heard talk in the House, know that we have to do something about this right away. Senator Schumer and I have heard from so many people in our states and throughout the country. Here's one we just heard from yesterday, Virginia. Aaron and his wife, cancer survivor, are going to see their premiums double. That means they're going to have to make some hard choices. Do they pay the high premiums so Aaron's wife can continue her cancer screenings, or do they get some kind of junk plan so that maybe if there's a catastrophe, it gets paid for, but the ongoing help is not there. Becky was in a wheelchair who's making progress, and they predict she's going to be out of that wheelchair if she can finish her treatment and physical therapy, but she doesn't think she can afford the premiums. Throughout the country, the people have spoken out. And one state where this is key, when you look at the states that use the most of these plans, it is Texas, it is Florida, and it is the state of Georgia. And just by coincidence, we have the great senator from the state of Georgia, Raphael Warnock, joining us today.
A happy coincidence.
Thank you so much, Senator Klobuchar and Leader Schumer. After today's vote, I really only have one question. Who do the Washington Republicans work for? Who are they working for? First, you kick 15 million Americans off of their health care in order to give billionaires a tax cut. And then after doing that, you double the premiums on some 22 million additional Americans. For some people, you triple the premiums, quadruple the premiums. Who are you working for? These are people who are disproportionately in red districts. And we've tried time and time again, as my colleagues have said, to get the Republicans to make a different choice, and here we are today. 15 million Americans have lost their health care. 22 million Americans on average will see their premiums double. Just last night, I had to stand up and object to a UC that would have knocked an additional 1 million people off of health care. And my colleague, who was putting forth that proposal, like me, he lives in a state that has not expanded Medicaid. And so here we are. The Republicans have demonstrated who they are working for. Certainly they're not working for you. They are not working for the people of Evans County, Georgia. I was there a couple of months ago. This is a county that voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. I won Georgia. I did not win that county, but I was there because I represent those people. They've already lost their labor and delivery unit, and they may well lose their ICU with these draconian cuts to health care. And so we've got to find a better way forward. We know that the status quo certainly has its problems. There's nobody who's saying that health care in America is terrific. But Republicans today have taken a system that's already struggling and broken it down even more. And the consequences for ordinary people, many of them in their own red districts, will be that they will have to delay response to their health care. They will have to find a way to pay more, higher premiums. And for many people, they will literally pay with their lives. And so we're not about to give up. We're going to keep fighting for those people. I've gotten arrested not once, but twice, fighting for health care. Dr. King said of all the injustices, inequality in health care is the most shocking and the most inhumane. And we're going to keep working at this until we center the people and get them their health care and their human dignity back.
Okay, questions on this subject? Yes.
Leader Thune says you're making this a political issue. These votes on the floor make it clear that a clean extension does not have a path forward. Neither do just reforms without an extension. So are you open to both?
Leader Thune ought to start talking to the Americans.
Taking you now to the White House press briefing.
President Trump and Republicans believe hardworking Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, but Democrats, on the other hand, every single one of them, voted against these massive tax cuts. So remember that the next time Democrats try to talk about affordability. Democrats don't have a single clue about how to make America more affordable. They just spent the last 4 years creating the very affordability crisis that President Trump is fixing right now. And if given the chance of power ever again, the Democrats will implement those same policies and jack inflation right back up to where it was. Finally, at the border, President Trump has restored America's sovereignty and made our country safe again. This is the single greatest and fastest national security victory in modern American history, and it's not even close. The latest preliminary numbers released from the month of November show we have the most secure border in our nation's history. This is a remarkable achievement. November encounters came in even lower than the previous historic low in October, if you can believe it. There were only 30,367 total encounters nationwide. That's lower than the previous record set in October. And for the 7th consecutive month, U.S. Border Patrol released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Let me repeat, 7 months of 0 illegal aliens being released into our country. This is a historic achievement, and it's one that every law-abiding American citizen should be grateful for. At this point in 10 months under President Trump's unmatched leadership, we've seen less apprehensions overall than we saw in just 1 month under Joe Biden. Again, let me repeat, in 10 months under President Trump, we've seen less apprehensions at the southern border than we saw in 1 month under the previous president. Again, remarkable results. All in all, the economy is back on track and ready to boom over the next 3 years. Biden's inflation crisis is over. Prices are coming down. Wages are rising. The border is fully secure, and America's best days are to come. President Trump has kept his word and delivered for the American people over the past year, and he will not stop fighting, as you heard from him directly this week, until our country and every state in this country is better than ever before. So with that, I will take your questions today. I know there's a lot of news. We'll start with our new media seat. Mr. Bowling, it's great to see you here. He's of Real America's Voice. He's also the host of Edge, his interview and commentary podcast. Please, Eric, why don't you kick us off?
Caroline, thank you very much for this and inviting me to the new media seat. As you point out, affordability crisis, it strikes me energy prices have been coming down aggressively since President Trump's second term, approaching $55 a barrel for oil, gasoline, as you point out, under $3 a barrel nationally, first time in 5 years. By the way, that $55 a barrel oil is about half of the peak under the last 4 years of the last administration, half the price. Wholesale prices come down, yet affordability crisis, a lot of the folks in this room, a lot of legacy media, some people in the front row, seem to want to call this an affordability crisis right now, forgetting the fact that over the last 4 years prior, we hit 9% inflation. Wages, as you point out, were stagnant at best, sometimes had dipped. That's a real affordability crisis there, but they weren't really calling it that then. You point out how President Trump is changing the affordability in America, but how will he ensure that the legacy media doesn't flip the script and change it so that they're using affordability as their word, their idea, versus what the American people who know much better?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Eric, and it's a point of frustration for the president and for myself. I will say that's part of the reason I just kicked off this briefing today, setting the record straight with facts about the economic mess that the president inherited from his predecessor, Joe Biden. And he's focused on digging our country and our economy out of that hole every day. Things are getting better, and they will continue to. And President Trump understands better than any politician in this city the pain that the American consumer has been feeling for years now because of the last administration's policies. You heard him in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this past week campaigning and talking to these voters, saying, I was elected to fix this problem, and I am fixing it. Don't forget who created it, and that's the Democrats. And I think when you hear the president talk about affordability, he's saying the Democrats are the greatest con artists in history because they are now trying to claim ownership of an issue that they created. And every data point and every economic metric does in fact show that the economy is improving. And so I do wish more people would report on those facts. I do wish that more people would remind the American public how we got here and why. It does not mean this president is discarding the feelings of the American people. He gets it better than anyone, which is why his entire administration has been focused on the issue of the economy and energy prices since day one.
If I may
sure.
follow up, it's reported that around 10,000 commercial driver's license operators have been pulled by your transportation secretary department. Will the president apply that same metric? For the reason was the operators weren't speaking or reading English to a level that was safely, people thought they would safely be able to operate trucks on our roadways. It's estimated in California around 40% of Uber drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, don't speak English proficiently, and the number's 45% in Minnesota. Will this same rule or metric apply to the gig economy like Uber and Lyft?
So I don't have any announcements on further regulations, if you will, from the Department of Transportation with respect to this issue. However, I will just reiterate the Trump administration's position is that truck drivers, particularly those driving big rigs on our nation's road and highways, who have a great responsibility to keep the American public and their fellow citizens safe, should be speaking English and should have an ability to read English proficiently. I think that's a very common sense policy to have, and we've unfortunately seen, and the Department of Transportation has uncovered and is actively working to fix these state-sponsored commercial trucking driver licenses, which were going to people who are not qualified to be driving these massive trucks on American roads, and they're endangering the lives of our fellow citizens. We've unfortunately seen many vehicle accidents across the country where people have lost their lives because of drivers that were just simply unqualified to be driving these trucks. So I know this is something DOT and Secretary Duffy take very seriously. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Based on the way that things stand right now, is Operation Southern Spear about drugs or is it about oil?
What I will tell you, Peter, is that the Trump administration is focused on doing many things in the Western Hemisphere. The president has taken a new approach that has not been taken by any administration for quite some time to actually focus on what's going on in our own backyard. And there are two things that are very important to this administration. Number one, stopping the flow of illegal drugs into the United States of America, which we know has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. The president promised on the campaign trail that he would demolish the foreign terrorist organizations and drug cartels around the world, especially right here in our own hemisphere, and you have seen that he is delivering on that promise. With respect to the oil and what happened yesterday, the Department of Justice requested and was approved for a warrant to seize a vessel because it's a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which you know is a sanctioned entity. So the president is committed to stopping the illegal flow of drugs into our country. He's also fully committed to effectuating this administration's sanction policy, and that's what you saw and the world saw take place yesterday.
And because he said the president is trying to do a lot of things at once, he talks a lot about how he thinks the way to bring down prices for everything would be to bring down the cost of energy. Would he use this seized Venezuelan oil to try to help Americans with affordability here in the United States?
Well, what I can tell you right now, the vessel has been seized, as you know, and the Department of Justice did that in conjunction with the Coast Guard and the Department of War. The vessel is currently undergoing a forfeiture process right now. The United States currently has a full investigative team on the ground on the vessel, and individuals on board the vessel are being interviewed and any relevant evidence is being seized. With respect to the oil, that's a different issue. As you know, Peter, the vessel will go to a U.S. port, and the United States does intend to seize the oil. However, there is a legal process for the seizure of that oil, and that legal process will be followed.
And just my last one on this. If President Trump launches a bigger military campaign in the Caribbean, is he jeopardizing a possible Nobel Peace Prize?
Look, the president has proven over the past year that he is more than worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he's been nominated for it nearly 100 times this past year, which is definitely a record. He's solved, I think, 9 conflicts around the world. We are up to now. He's actively working on the Russia-Ukraine war, which is the big one as we speak, and has been over the past year. With respect to any additional action in Venezuela, I'm definitely not going to get ahead of the president or the United States military. Mary.
It now seems all but certain that the Obamacare subsidies will expire at the end of the year. It means more than 20 million Americans are now bracing for their health care costs to soar. Is the president prepared to let this happen, or is he going to step in?
The president is prepared to take action on health care, and he wants Republicans on the Hill to do the same. As you have seen, Senate Republicans put forth their own legislation earlier this week. As for the subsidies that are set to expire, I would like to remind you and everybody at home why this is on the brink of happening. Democrats wrote Obamacare. They passed it without a single Republican vote, and then they ballooned it with these expensive COVID subsidies that completely distorted the health insurance market. And then they doubled down, extending those subsidies and setting their own expiration date right now in 2025, which the administration is obviously well aware of, and we are working, the president is working with his healthcare policy team here at the White House, as well as Republicans on Capitol Hill, to find a solution.
You said he's working to find a solution. He wants to see a solution to lower healthcare costs.
He does.
But these subsidies are expiring at the end of the year. So what is the plan, and what is he going to do to put this in place in the next 2-3 weeks?
You'll hear more from the president and from the White House on that very soon. As for wanting a solution to lower healthcare costs, I'm glad you said it, because the president is doing just that. He has made unprecedented progress towards lowering healthcare costs in this country and drug prices. He's secured numerous most favored nation drug price deals, with many more to come. As you know, the One Big Beautiful Bill, the working family tax cut, significantly expanded access to health savings accounts for those on Obamacare. Again, a Democrat written program and approved program, which has led to higher healthcare costs in this country. So it goes back to the issue of affordability. Democrats are now pretending they want a solution to this issue, but they created the problem. The president and Republicans are currently coming up with creative solutions and ideas to lower healthcare costs for the American people, and you'll continue to hear more from them on that.
Before these subsidies expire?
I just said you're going to continue to hear more from the president and Republicans on this issue, I'm sure. Sure, Bloomberg, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said he was going to be holding a call with the leaders of Thailand and Cambodia. Have those calls taken place? Is there a readout you can share?
The president has not yet engaged in those calls, and when he does, I'm sure you'll hear from him directly, as you always do, after foreign leader calls or from somebody here at the White House. I do know, with respect to the conflict in the peace deal in Thailand and Cambodia and some of the conflicts you've seen arise, reports of that in the press over the past couple of days. The president addressed it in Pennsylvania. The administration is obviously tracking this at the highest levels and is very much engaged. I spoke with Secretary Rubio about it this morning.
And will senior U.S. officials be meeting Saturday with European and Ukrainian officials to discuss the peace plan?
Look, the United States and the Trump administration continues to be very much engaged in trying to bring the Russia-Ukraine war to an end. The president had a call with Europeans yesterday. His special envoy Witkoff and his team continue to talk with both sides literally as we speak. If there is a real chance of signing a peace agreement, if we feel like those meetings are worthy of someone on the United States' time this weekend, then we will send a representative. It's still up in the air whether we believe real peace can be accomplished and we can truly move the ball forward. The president is extremely frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's sick of meetings just for the sake of meeting. He doesn't want any more talk. He wants action. He wants this war to come to an end. And the administration has spent more than 30 hours, just in the past couple of weeks, meeting with the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Europeans and speaking with them as well. So we'll see about the meetings this weekend, and stay tuned.
President read President Zelensky's latest proposal that was sent over yesterday.
He's aware of it, yes. Ed.
Thanks, Caroline. So the Fed chairman, the president says that he's interviewing candidates. So I just want to be clear. So the pick has not been locked in, and could we get an announcement before Christmas?
I know every business outlet in the world is just chomping at the bit for a scoop or something on this Fed chair announcement. I'm not going to get ahead of the president. I know there's been a lot of reports about potential meetings this week with potential candidates. Look, as always, this is a decision the president himself is going to make. And I know there's a lot of reporting out there from anonymous sources who claim to know something. I would wait and see what the president himself does and announces, and I certainly won't be the one to get ahead of him on that.
On the economy, can I ask you about it?
Michael, go ahead.
On the next Fed chair, does the president have an expectation that his pick will lower interest rates next year to his liking?
I think the president has been quite clear about what he believes the Fed should be doing, which is lowering interest rates. I know there was a quarter-point reduction this past week, and the president was pleased to see that, but he thinks more should be done. Philip.
Thank you, Caroline. On these advanced NVIDIA H200 chips, why is the president willing to allow China to have access to one of America's chief technological advantages?
Look, I will tell you just a couple of things. The president put out his own statement on this, which I do think highlights his exact thinking. What you see from the president on Truth Social is most of the time what you hear from the president behind closed doors privately. He told President Xi that NVIDIA will only be shipping H200 products to approved customers in China under conditions that will allow for continued strong national security. The administration continues to maintain a strict export control regime, and we are ensuring that the Blackwell chip and other advanced technologies stay right here in America, and these H200 chips will only be sent to China after undergoing a security inspection here in the United States. Elizabeth.
City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani put out a video recently telling immigrants in New York City they have the right to stand up to ICE. Are you concerned this will inspire New York City residents to resist ICE operations, and what will the Trump administration do if this happens?
The Trump administration is definitely concerned about the rise in violence, in attacks, and physical threats that we have seen against our brave men and women who wear the ICE uniform. Again, these are agents who are just simply doing their jobs. They are enforcing our nation's immigration laws, and we've seen more than a 1,000% increase in violent attacks on them and their families. They've been doxxed, they've been harassed, many of them have been physically assaulted and attacked. So we condemn that wholeheartedly. I know the administration has done a lot to protect our ICE agents, and the president stands firmly behind them in conducting these enforcement operations. And there's a lot of talk from Democrat politicians in New York, but the Trump administration will continue to do our jobs in every state, and that's to remove illegal aliens and public safety threats from American communities. Sure.
Thank you.
I'll go to the gentleman who's very eager, and then to you.
Thank you so much. Obviously, Jasmine Crockett, who the president has openly criticized, just entered Texas' Senate race. I asked Mike Johnson, who said that Texas largely supports the president. Crockett, on the other hand, says that Trump is an example of extremism. She says that her support is a referendum on Trump. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. And has Trump made any statements since she's announced her candidacy?
Not to my knowledge, as you know from the White House podium. As a government employee, I'm not privy to comment on future elections, but I do think the president has made his thoughts on Ms. Crockett quite clear, and I do believe he thinks she is wholly unqualified for the office that she is seeking. Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. A federal judge today ordered the immediate release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from ICE detention. Does the White House have a response to that, and does the administration plan to appeal that decision?
Absolutely. The White House, the administration opposed this activism from a judge who is really acting as a judicial activist, which we've unfortunately seen in many cases across the country. Abrego Garcia is present in our country illegally. He is a proven human trafficker. He is a proven gang member. The administration has evidence of that. And as you saw from the Department of Homeland Security, they issued a statement saying they'll continue to fight this legal battle in court. Caitlin.
Two questions. I have one on Venezuela to follow up, but first on affordability, since we were talking about the economy at the beginning. If the economy is as strong as the president has said it is, then why is he telling parents 2 weeks before Christmas that they should only buy 2 or 3 dolls for their children?
Look, what the president is saying is that if we want products made right here in America, if we want them to be made from American small businesses, which is a large part of the reason the president has effectively implemented tariffs, then we're going to have better quality products right here in the United States. Maybe you'll pay $1 or $2 more, but you will get better quality, and you'll be supporting your fellow Americans by buying American, and that's what the president was saying. Again, with respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation as measured by the overall CPI has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $2.75. You look at the tax cuts, those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago
ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
Inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure. And people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president. Go ahead. I'm not going to take your follow-up. Go ahead.
Does the White House is the White House optimistic about the upcoming redistricting vote in Indiana and what happens if it fails?
We'll see how the vote plays out. That's a political matter and, frankly, a legal one, and I won't comment on it here. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm going to go back to the Fed. I have two topics I just want to address with you. The first one on the Fed. The president did say yesterday that he was meeting with Kevin Warsh.
This is your favorite story in the world, Brian.
It is our favorite story. The president said yesterday he was meeting with Kevin Warsh to talk about the Fed chair, interview for a Fed chair role. Can you just say how that interview went with him?
I won't comment on private meetings without the president's approval to do so.
And the second thing is on the Netflix Warner Brothers deal. The president did address this also yesterday. He said that he believes that the sale of CNN should be attached to that deal with Netflix or with Paramount if anything happens down the road with them. Can you just explain what the president's planning to do going forward to continue to make that case similar to what he made yesterday?
Well, I think the president's comments yesterday about the sale of CNN and new leadership is evidenced by my exchange with the CNN reporter in this room. Their viewership has gone down, their ratings has declined, and I think the president rightfully believes that network would benefit from new ownership. With respect to this deal, he has great respect for both companies who are bidding against one another, and I won't weigh in any further than that. In the back, go ahead.
Thank you.
I wasn't calling on either of you, but I'll take both your questions and then to you. Go ahead.
I have two questions. One is South Korea, one on the Japan. First question, the recent U.S.-South Korea trade fact sheet made no mention of agricultural product. Does the United States want to completely open its rice and beef market to South Korea? And second question on Japan. China is using its military power to surround Okinawa, Japan. Is the United States concerned about the military conflict between China and Japan? And what action will the United States take?
Okay. To your first question on South Korean beef export to South Korea, I will check with our trade team and we will get you an answer on that. To your second question with respect to Japan and China, the president has a phenomenal relationship with the new Prime Minister of Japan, as you know. He was pleased to meet her when we went to Asia a couple of months ago, and they have spoken a few times since. They continue to be engaged with one another, and Japan is a great ally of the United States, as evidenced by their personal relationship and our continued trade relations with Japan. With respect to China, the president also has a good working relationship with President Xi, which he believes is a good thing for our country, and he believes that the United States should be in a position to have a good working relationship with China while maintaining our very strong alliance with Japan. Go ahead.
Yesterday, President Trump was speaking about drug production in Colombia. He said that the president of Colombia better wise up or he's gonna be next. What was he meaning exactly? And the other thing is that President Gustavo Petro of Colombia responded to that statement by issuing a formal invitation to President Trump to go to Colombia and to see firsthand how the authorities in Colombia are fighting against drugs. Do you think that President Trump would consider that?
Well, that's very interesting. I hadn't heard the news about that invitation. I will let the president speak directly to it on whether or not that's something he would entertain. But as for his comments yesterday towards President Petro, he has been saying some very alarming and frankly insulting things towards the United States of America, and the president doesn't like it. Yes, in the blue.
Caroline?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. The President's been spotted out and about a number of times with bandages on his hands. Could you please explain what that is about? Secondly, he noted on Truth Social the other day that he had aced 3 cognitive tests. Could you please clarify when those tests took place?
I can do that at a later date. I obviously don't have that in front of me. The president has spoken about that quite extensively throughout the years. As for the bandages on the hand, we've also given you an explanation for that in the past. The president is literally constantly shaking hands. The Oval Office is like Grand Central Terminal. He is meeting with more people than any of you even know about on a daily basis. He's also on a daily aspirin regimen, which is something his physical examinations has said in the past as well, which can contribute to that bruising that you see.
Thank you, Caroline. Back to that oil tanker, just want to know, was this a one-off, or is it safe to say the administration is taking a more active look at the oil industry in Venezuela, whether targeting other oil ships or perhaps Venezuelan oil production facilities in Venezuela?
Well, I won't broadcast any future actions from the administration, but I will just reiterate that the Trump administration is executing on the president's sanction policies and the sanction policies of the United States. And we're not going to stand by and watch sanctioned vessels sail the seas with black market oil, the proceeds of which will fuel narco-terrorism of rogue and illegitimate regimes around the world. Andrew?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 for you. First, when the president announced the farm relief program the other day, Secretary Rollins afterwards, right out there, told us that the program would be paid for by the Commodity Credit Corporation, an existing program. The president keeps saying that it's being paid for by tariff revenue. Why does he keep saying that if the secretary who's running the program says that's not the case? And also about his doll comments from the other night. The president's a billionaire. He's probably the wealthiest person to ever serve as president. Is it a good look for him to be telling parents, oh, you should only buy, $2 or $3 for your kids, when he's one of the wealthiest people in the country running the government?
Do you think the people in that room in Pennsylvania who the president was speaking to don't know the president's a billionaire? I think that's a very well-established fact. And actually, I think it's one of the many reasons they reelected him back to this office, because he's a businessman who understands the economy and knows how to fix it. And he's doing it right now just like he did in his first term. Sure, go ahead. To the gentleman behind you, Andrew, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On Gaza, we heard the president say yesterday that the Board of Peace members are going to be announced early next year. What is the administration doing to move the parties in the region closer toward phase 2 of his peace plan for Gaza?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight what a success it is that 10 months into the president's administration, you're asking me about a peace plan in Gaza, because that's a legitimate reality on the ground right now in the region. And it's only because of this president's leadership that that was able to take place, that all the living hostages were returned. All but one body of the deceased hostages has been returned, and we're still, of course, working on the last one. As for this next phase of the peace process, there is a lot of quiet planning that's going on behind the scenes right now for phase 2 of the peace deal. And when the United States is ready to make those announcements public on the Board of Peace, the ISF, and the Palestinian technocratic government, we will be making those announcements at the appropriate time. But the reason that the negotiators and the teams on the ground have been rather quiet about this is because I spoke with them this morning. They are trying to be deliberate and thoughtful about this. Peace in Gaza, in the Palestinian Strip, is something, the Gaza Strip rather, is something that people have been trying to accomplish for 70 years. So, this is a complex problem, and this administration wants to be very thoughtful about it, and we want to ensure an enduring and lasting peace. And when those announcements are ready, they will be made. Sure.
Thank you. There have been reports that Vladimir Putin called Maduro today to reaffirm his support. I wanted to ask if it is concerning to the president that Putin has given such a warm embrace to Maduro.
I don't think that would be concerning to the president at all, no. I'll let him speak on it further.
Spoken to Putin about that?
He has not spoken to President Putin today, and I understand that call took place this morning, so the answer is no.
Thanks. I have a question about the ACA, but just first very quickly clarifying Caitlin's question. You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, and in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation.
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%, the average CPI right now. I have it in front of me. In President Trump's first 8 months in office, inflation as measured by the overall consumer price index has slowed to a 2.5 average pace. This is down from the 2.9% inherited in January.
January is 1 month.
Kelly, in the back.
Okay, can I ask you about the ACA really quickly? There are a number of plans that are floating around on the Hill right now having to do with these premium subsidies that are about to expire. Which plan does the White House support?
Again, I have told you now a few times that the president and the Republicans will continue to unveil creative ideas and solutions to the healthcare crisis that was created by Democrats. And I know Chuck Schumer is putting up a vote today. This is a political show vote. Chuck Schumer is not sincerely interested in lowering healthcare costs for the American people. He's putting this vote on the floor knowing that it will fail so he can have another talking point that he can throw around without any real plan or action. If Chuck Schumer actually wanted to lower healthcare costs, I'm sure the president would welcome him and his entire Democrat caucus to a legitimate coordination on the president's policies of bringing down drug prices, these most favored nation deals. Why hasn't Chuck Schumer ever come out in support of those? Those are going to legitimately, they already are, lower drug prices for the American people. And not a word from Chuck Schumer on it. So I think that just proves this is completely political. Kelly, go ahead.
On Venezuela, does the president consider the seizure of the oil tanker an escalation or a step towards war with Venezuela?
I think the president considers the seizure of the oil tanker as effectuating the administration's sanction policies, which I've already discussed previously.
Potential invasion or potential land strikes in Venezuela aligned with the president's supporters, the MAGA base, does it risk the potential for a prolonged war and U.S. troops involved in that?
Prolonged war is definitely not something this president is interested in. He's been very clear about that. He wants peace. He also wants to see the end of illegal drugs being trafficked into the United States and taking the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans across our country. And he's thinking about that every day here at the White House. With every drug boat that is taken out by this administration, we are saving thousands of lives by deterring those drugs and stopping those drugs from flowing into our country. You will all, excuse me, you'll all hear, excuse me, you will all see the president tonight. He'll be making remarks at the Congressional Christmas Ball, which will be taking place here at the White House. And later this afternoon, he will be signing some congressional bills and executive orders that we, as always, will keep you apprised of. Thanks, guys.
Can you say a word about the call with Modi?
There you have it. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressing a number of things with regard to health care, stating that, well, the current status of health care is all on the Democrats, saying they were the ones that put it in place. She also stated that President Trump is, well, worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize and that he has, in essence, solved 8 to 9 wars. She also stated that Trump is stressing that the economy is strong, despite polls saying otherwise, something we'll have to keep a close eye on. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back into Fox 5 Live Zone. We were just a couple of minutes out from the take, but yeah, Fox 5, that's all things important. So is the Powerball.
Yeah.
Apparently, now estimated jackpot over $1 billion, producer Joey.
You know what? The big question is, what are you going to buy when you win with your ticket that you got?
Yeah, so I purchase a ticket. I make it a daily thing. As I leave here, there's a little convenience store not too far right here from Fox 5 that I'll walk in and get a ticket. And I think it's $2. It's the Mega Millions. That's the $5 one. But get this, Joey, and I saw this earlier today on Good Day DC, that apparently a $1 million ticket was sold in Lanham, Maryland. And so if you happen to have purchased a ticket in Lanham, check it now, because perhaps you are the $1 million winner. Here's the thing. What would you rather take? Well, I know what you'd rather take, the $1 billion, but to think that that person who won that $1 million is probably ungrateful speaks volumes with regard to the greed throughout America. What say you?
I'll go home with $1 million. Okay, if you don't want it, I could take it. But you know what? Here's what I'm going to get. All right, first, $1 billion to me, producer Joey. First, I make sure all the little boys and girls in the country are fed and taken care of, and we end hunger. And then I'm going to stack paper to the ceiling and ride on 24-inch chrome for the rest of my life. It's $1 billion. I'm a billionaire.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Don't forget about us little guys, myself included. On behalf of producer Joey, I'm Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for watching. The Take coming up next, right here on Fox 5.